Have you ever wondered why you no longer hear the voices of some of your favorite country music legends, even before they passed? That may be because they've been banned. While not all were formally banned, many faced unofficial industry pushback, exclusion from country radio, or rejection by the Nashville establishment. Let's take a look at 20 country music stars who fell into these categories. Number 20, Hank Williams Sr. Hank Williams made his Grand Ole Opry debut and became a member in 1949 after releasing a long string of country hits in the 1940s. These songs include Hey, Good Lookin', I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry, I Saw the Light, Move It On Over, and Your Cheatin' Heart. During his Opry debut, Williams received 6 encores and went on to tour with his band, the Drifting Cowboys. Despite these milestones, Williams' drinking habits ultimately hindered his career too soon. He was known for his drinking problem, which led to his being fired from the radio station where he started. This was because he showed up inebriated on multiple occasions. Such an attitude resulted in a similar fate to the one he faced with the Opry. Soon after his membership with the Grand Ole Opry, his alcoholism became noticeable and progressed over the years. Ultimately, in 1952, the Opry dismissed Williams just 3 years after he became a member, after he had missed several scheduled shows with no explanation. Williams passed a few months later on New Year's Day, 1953, at the age of 29. In 2003, his grandson Hank Williams III started a campaign to have his grandfather reinstated into the Grand Ole Opry. However, the Grand Ole Opry declined to reinstate Hank Williams Sr., stating that Opry membership is only active while a member is alive and cannot be reinstated posthumously. Number 19, Johnny Cash.
Before his conversion on Damascus Road, before he became Paul the Saint.
On the 19th of July, 1956, Johnny Cash made his Grand Ole Opry debut, performing I Walk the Line, Get Rhythm, and So Doggone Lonesome. He later moved to California, signed with Columbia, and released more hits, including Ring of Fire. Despite his move to California, Cash frequently returned to perform at the Opry. Over the years, his life had become more tumultuous due to unhealthy habits and the failure of his first marriage. During a 1965 performance, an inebriated Cash dragged the microphone stand around, smashing out all footlights in front of the Opry stage. The outcome of his behavior took a toll on his career. Cash, in an interview later, said, "I don't know how bad they wanted me in the first place, but the night I broke all the lights on the stage with the microphone stand, they said they couldn't use me anymore. So I left and used that as an excuse to get wild and wound up in the hospital the 3rd time I broke my nose." Cash's punishment lasted only 2 years before the intervention of his wife, June Carter, whom he had first met at the Opry and who had been a member for years. He started singing with the Carter family and as a backup singer for Elvis Presley, and that was how they helped Cash return to the Opry stage in 1968. Cash's membership was reinstated, and he remained an Opry member throughout the rest of his life. He passed away on 12 September 2003 at the age of 71, just 5 months after June Carter, his wife, passed away. Number 18, Skeeter Davis.
He loves his darned old rodeo as much as he loves me.
Kentucky native Skeeter Davis first broke out as part of the Davis Sisters in the late 1940s. They released their country hit, I Forgot More Than You'll Ever Know, which spent 8 weeks at the top of the country charts in 1953. They continue to perform with everyone from Bob Dylan, Jerry Lee Lewis, and Wanda Jackson. After her singing partner, Betty Jack Davis, passed away in a car accident in 1953, which also left Skeeter with severe head injuries, the singer decided to retire from music and start a family. However, she had a change of mind and later decided to return to music as a solo artist in 1958. Luckily, Davis became a member of the Opry in 1959. Days after taking to the Opry stage on 8 December 1973, Davis witnessed the arrest of the Christian organization Christ is the Answer Crusade at a local shopping center and expressed her disdain at the police officer's actions. She said to the Opry audience before performing, "Amazing Grace. This is really something that I should share. I didn't ask our manager, but they've arrested 15 people just for telling people that Jesus loves them. And that really burdened my heart, so I thought I would sing you all this song." After sharing her opinion of the local Nashville police, Davis's membership was suspended, and she was banned from performing at the Opry. In 1974, the Opry welcomed Davis back, and she continued to perform there until her very last performance in 2002. Skeeter Davis remained an Opry member until she passed away in 2004 at the age of 72. Number 17, Jerry Lee Lewis.
Your cheating heart will make you weep.
Jerry Lee Lewis faced some challenges with the Grand Ole Opry due to some misconduct. He had strong country music roots and numerous releases within the genre, which include She Even Woke Me Up to Say Goodbye, To Make Love Sweeter For You, What Made Milwaukee Famous, or Has Made a Loser Out of Me, End of the Road, and Another Place, Another Time. Despite these milestones, Jerry Lee Lewis never felt accepted by the Nashville country community. Before his official induction in 2022, he was asked to perform at the Opry on January 20th, 1973, and he decided to break the house rules they gave him, no cursing and no playing rock songs. Not only was Lewis foul-mouthed, but he also ignored the commercial breaks and performed several rock songs, including his hits Great Balls of Fire, Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On, Chuck Berry's Johnny B. Good, and more before closing on the more tender, I'm So Lonesome I Could Cry. Lewis also broke another rule by playing a 40-minute set, when most artists were restricted to 2 or 3 songs. Lewis never became an Opry member and was banned from performing there after his notorious appearance in 1973, though he did end up playing there again in the early 1980s. Number 16, Dierks Bentley.
A videotape thing that got sent to me on the road, and my producer then ended up putting it on the track is to see how it sounded.
Though Dierks Bentley was eventually welcomed into the Grand Ole Opry as a member in 2005, he was banned from the venue even long before he performed inside. While Bentley was working as a researcher at a local TV station, the Nashville Network, located on the Opryland grounds, he discovered a way to sneak backstage and mingle with the Opry performers on weekends. When the Opry general manager, Pete Fisher, caught Bentley lurking about too often, according to the Opry, they limited his access to the venue. He released his 2003 self-titled debut with his first number one, What Was I Thinkin', which was coincidentally inspired by a girl he met backstage at the Opry long before he was signed by a label. Bentley made his Grand Ole Opry debut that same year with that one hit and was introduced by Ricky Skaggs. He released another hit album with the follow-up, Modern Day Drifter, and was inducted into the Opry on the 1st of October 2005, making him the 3rd youngest member after Josh Turner and Carrie Underwood. Bentley said in his Opry performances, "We leave the door to our dressing room wide open so people can come in and say hi. And if we're not getting ready, then I want to be out on the stage watching the other bands. Just remembering what it feels like to be part of the audience. I don't ever want to lose that feeling of being a fan." Number 15, Neko Case.
Things happen, or when you're neglected. There was a lot of neglect. That was, I'd say that was the lion's share.
Yeah.
While Neko Case is primarily known for her work in the rock genre, some of her work shows influences from country, folk, and Americana. The Opry felt she had a strong enough connection to country music in 2001 when she was invited to play at the Grand Ole Opry Plaza party. The outdoor concert took place in July. According to reports, Tennessee can be very hot in July. And to make matters worse, the stage was black and had a barbecue pit next to it. When Case was in her mid-performance, she felt the heat starting to make her woozy. She asked for some water or the chance to take a short break, but her requests were ignored. Growing dizzy and fearing she would have heat stroke, a desperate Case removed her top in an attempt to cool down. This broke the Opry's law, and she never performed there again. Number 14, Kitty Wells.
I'm playing the tune about the
Wells, who was known as the Queen of Country Music, was not banned from Nashville, nor was she ever officially blacklisted or removed from the Grand Ole Opry. However, she did face serious institutional resistance in her early career, especially from Nashville's male-dominated music industry. Before her breakthrough, Kitty Wells struggled to be taken seriously. The country music industry in the 1940s and early 1950s was dominated by men, and women were generally expected to sing backup or love songs from a submissive point of view. Most record labels believed female solo artists wouldn't sell records, and radio stations rarely played female-led tracks except for novelty songs or duets. Kitty Wells, however, recorded the song It Wasn't God Who Made Honky Tonk Angels in 1952, a direct response to Hank Thompson's hit The Wild Side of Life, which blamed women for men's bad behavior. The song challenged the double standards placed on women in relationships and society. It became a massive hit and was the first #1 country song by a solo female artist. However, the song was banned by NBC Radio and several other major stations for being too suggestive and controversial. The Grand Ole Opry and the NBC Radio network initially refused to play it, calling it too risky and morally unhealthy. Therefore, while Kitty Wells herself wasn't banned, her music faced censorship and gatekeeping from Nashville's biggest platforms. Number 13, Don Gibson. The legendary country singer and songwriter, known for hits like Oh Lonesome Me and I Can't Stop Loving You, was not officially banned from Nashville or the Grand Ole Opry, but experienced periods of industry pushback, marginalization, and personal struggles that affected his standing in the country music world during the late 1960s and early 1970s. His situation might not be tagged as banned. However, he went through a combination of professional decline and personal issues that led to what may be interpreted as a silent exile, or being pushed aside in Nashville. First, Gibson struggled with depression, anxiety, and substance misuse, especially during his peak years in the 1950s and 60s. These issues led to erratic behavior, missed appearances, and long gaps between recordings. This led to frustration from producers and executives, who found him difficult to market at times. By the 1970s, his chart success declined, and younger artists were taking over the radio waves. Though he continued to record, Gibson was no longer a priority in Nashville and received little support from record labels. This marginalization may have felt like being pushed out or banned unofficially. However, he returned to the Opry in the 1970s and 80s and was warmly remembered for his legacy. Number 12, Faron Young.
And I'm sorry, old buddy, that I pulled her from you.
Young was known for his volatile personality, public outbursts, and personal demons, which led to him being quietly pushed to the fringes of the Nashville industry, especially later in his career. Known for hits like Hello Walls and Live Fast, Love Hard, Die Young, he became an icon in the industry. However, many in the industry distanced themselves from him, and his reputation became deeply tarnished despite his musical legacy. Young has always made headlines, not for his musical prowess, but for offensive remarks, inappropriate behavior at award shows, and alcohol-fueled public incidents. As he aged, these behaviors became less tolerated by an industry trying to project a cleaner, more marketable image. Young made numerous sexist and politically incorrect statements during interviews and public appearances. He publicly criticized modern country music, calling it bubblegum pop, and accusing the industry of abandoning its roots. He resented the younger stars who didn't pay homage to veterans like him. His bitterness created rifts between him and the country's new power players, making him a difficult figure to embrace for award shows, producers, and media outlets. This resulted in a drastic decline in his music career. He was no longer played on the radio, no longer invited to major events, and no longer asked to perform regularly at the Grand Ole Opry. He saw this rejection as abandonment by the very industry he had helped build. In December 1996, Faron Young tragically took his own life at age 64. Number 11, Willie Nelson.
That were scheduled to be slaughtered, and I already had maybe 15 or so of my own.
In the early 1960s, Willie Nelson struggled to succeed as a performer in Nashville despite writing classic hits like Crazy and Hello Walls. This was because the country music industry favored the polished Nashville sound, clean-cut images, smooth vocals, and lush production. However, Willie's unconventional voice, offbeat phrasing, and rugged appearance didn't fit the mold. Though record labels tried to reshape him, his albums still flopped, and he grew increasingly frustrated by the lack of creative control. He finally left Nashville and moved back to Texas in 1972 after years of rejection. While in Austin, Texas, he discovered a vibrant scene that welcomed his authenticity, which was a mix of hippies, cowboys, and outlaw spirits. This move gave rise to outlaw country, a genre that rejected Nashville's formulas and embraced raw storytelling, artistic freedom, and a rebellious attitude. Willie's 1975 album Red-Headed Stranger, which was once feared to be sparse for commercial success, became a massive hit. In collaboration with fellow outlaws like Waylon Jennings and Johnny Cash, Willie redefined country music. Although he was once rejected, he eventually became a legend, earning awards, industry respect, and a place in the Country Music Hall of Fame. His journey proved that staying true to yourself can change an entire industry. Number 10, Waylon Jennings.
But anyway, it's all of those things are true and all of them are untrue. So how does that for a really political?
While he was never officially banned from Nashville, Waylon was effectively shunned, resisted, and marginalized by the city's powerful music institutions for years because he refused to conform to their standards. Here's the summary of the story. In the 1960s and early 1970s, Nashville was dominated by a tightly controlled industry model. Producers and label executives made all the decisions. The result was the slick, polished Nashville sound, designed to appeal to mainstream pop audiences. The artists had no creative control, so they were told what to sing, how to dress, and how to behave. Waylon Jennings hated all of it. In the mid-1960s, Waylon signed with RCA Victor under producer Chet Atkins, a key architect of the Nashville sound. RCA and Nashville executives told him to cut his hair, wear rhinestone suits, and tone down his style. This made him feel caged and less expressive. However, Waylon demanded something unheard of in Nashville: complete creative control over his music in the early 1970s. He started recording songs that were raw, rebellious, and unlike anything else on country radio. As expected, Nashville's elite did not embrace him and refused to adopt his style. Radio programmers initially resisted playing his music because it didn't fit the polished country formula. Executives see him as a stubborn troublemaker, hence temporarily and unofficially banned from the country music industry. Number 9, Kris Kristofferson.
But when he was a civilian, he was an airline pilot for Pan American, so he was going a lot all the time.
Kris Kristofferson was one of those whom the new country trend of the 1960s and 70s did not favor. Known for his unconventional songwriting style, which was poetic, gritty, and emotionally raw, unlike the polished, formula-driven Nashville sound, Kristofferson's lyrics dealt with loneliness, existential despair, and human vulnerability. He was largely ignored, as many industry insiders felt his music was too intellectual, or not country enough. In what seems like a bold move, Kristofferson once borrowed a helicopter and landed it in Johnny Cash's yard to deliver a demo tape. Cash was impressed and recorded "Sunday Morning Comin' Down," and it became a #1 hit. This was the beginning of the massive opening of doors for Kristofferson. Soon, his songs were covered by Janis Joplin, Ray Price, and Elvis Presley, forcing Nashville to take notice. He later joined the Highwaymen with Cash, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings, becoming a legend in his own right. Number 8, Jamey Johnson.
Searching for shelter again and again.
Johnson is widely regarded as one of the most authentic voices in modern country music, yet he remains sidelined mainly by Nashville's mainstream industry. Despite receiving Grammy nominations and multiple award wins, Johnson has faced ongoing industry resistance due to his steadfast commitment to traditional country sounds. Johnson signed with B&A Records and released The Dollar in 2006. The album showcased his deep, rich voice and songwriting talent, but didn't align with the pop-leaning direction country radio was heading, and he was quickly dropped. He went independently to release That Lonesome Song, which was picked up by Mercury Nashville. The album earned critical acclaim, with the single In Color becoming a fan favorite and earning Grammy nominations. In 2010, Johnson released The Guitar Song, a double album that debuted at #1 on Billboard's country chart. Despite the success, country radio and his label refused to support him. His refusal to chase trends and his artistic independence made him a poor fit for an industry that prioritized polished, radio-friendly material. Frustrated by these creative constraints, he decided to part ways with Mercury Records in 2012. Many fans believe the industry's cold shoulder played a larger role in his subsequent absence from the spotlight. Number 7, Tanya Tucker.
Arms tonight, just like we used to do.
Tucker came onto the country music scene with her breakout hit Delta Dawn in 1972 when she was only 13 years old. She was hailed as a prodigy with a powerhouse voice far beyond her years. However, as she grew older, Tucker evolved into a bold, outspoken, and rebellious woman. This is not what the Nashville establishment was fully prepared to embrace. Unlike many of her female peers, Tucker didn't conform to the sweetheart image often expected of women in country music. She sang with grit and confidence, wore bold outfits, and lived life unapologetically in the public eye. Her personal relationships, especially her tumultuous romance with Glenn Campbell, drew tabloid headlines. They are known for high-profile fights, substance use, and age difference, which made Tucker a frequent target of media scrutiny and moral judgment from Nashville insiders. Despite her immense talent and string of hits through the 70s and 80s, she was often overlooked for major awards and kept at a distance by influential industry figures. Number 6, Sturgill Simpson.
I met Lloyd. He came to a show. We played at the Basement, and then I was on tour last year going up the West Coast. And
although Simpson is one of the most critically acclaimed artists in modern country music, he has been repeatedly ignored and marginalized by mainstream Nashville. His career highlights the growing gap between artistic authenticity and commercial conformity in the industry. He broke into the limelight in 2014 with his album Meta-Modern Sounds in Country Music, a psychedelic, roots-infused record that blended traditional country with experimental sounds and profound lyrics. Critics hailed him as a visionary, and the album appeared on numerous Best of the Year lists. Despite its success, country radio stations barely touched it. His sound didn't fit the polished, pop-heavy blueprint dominating Nashville's airwaves at the time. Simpson, however, refused to change to fit the mold. He openly criticized the industry, calling out the CMA Awards for excluding Merle Haggard in their tribute segment and accusing the industry of forgetting its roots. He's also spoken candidly about the corporate politics of country radio, rejecting the commercial system that sidelines true artistry. All these controversies made Simpson at one point not consider himself a country artist. He remains a symbol of independence, refusing to conform to Nashville's image-driven priorities. Number 5, Gretchen Wilson.
Badge of honor.
It was time. It was that season where I think for a little while country music.
The songstress rose to fame in 2004 with her explosive debut single, Redneck Woman, a song that celebrated working-class Southern women with grit, pride, and unapologetic authenticity. The track immediately went to number 1 on the country charts and won her a Grammy Award for Best Female Country Vocal Performance. Despite this success and subsequent hits like Here for the Party, When I Think About Cheatin' and Homewrecker, Wilson soon found herself shut out of country radio. Her music style, which was raw, loud, and defiant, clashed with the increasingly polished pop country aesthetic the industry began embracing in the mid-2000s. By the 2010s, radio stations largely stopped playing her music, and label support waned. Wilson, however, refused to compromise her identity and chose to start her own label, Redneck Records, continuing to release music independently. Though the mainstream industry moved on, she maintained a loyal fan base. Her decline in radio support wasn't due to a lack of talent, but rather an industry discomfort with women who didn't conform. Like many before her, Gretchen Wilson proved that being true to yourself can come at a cost in Nashville. However, it also builds a legacy that can't be ignored. Number 4, Margo Price. She was one of the most respected singers and songwriters in modern Americana and country music. However, she remains largely ignored by mainstream country radio and Nashville's commercial system. Price first gained widespread attention with her 2016 debut album, Midwest Farmer's Daughter, which was released on Jack White's Third Man Records. The album emphasizes personal hardships, including the loss of her infant son, financial struggles, unhealthy habits, and jail time. It was gritty, raw, and deeply autobiographical. The emotional honesty in that album earned her critical acclaim but little attention from country radio. This was due to no other reason but the fact that country music often favors polished, upbeat content over reality-based songwriting. Price was not only known for her music but for her outspoken views on social and political issues. She has criticized sexism in the music industry, spoken up for reproductive rights, and challenged corporate control in country music. Her 2020 album, That's How Rumors Get Started, further showcased her stylistic range. However, it received minimal radio support. Price has been vocal about gatekeeping in Nashville, particularly regarding its impact on women and independent artists. She once tweeted, "Country radio wouldn't even play Dolly Parton today," pointing out the industry's narrow definition of who qualifies for airplay. Despite being sidelined by radio, Price continues to tour, record, and build a dedicated fan base. Her refusal to compromise her identity or message has made her a torchbearer for authenticity, echoing the legacies of artists like Kris Kristofferson, Willie Nelson, and Waylon Jennings. Number 3, Kacey Musgraves.
It's like summer camp, making a record. You're with your friends and you're hanging out for this was like a year and a half or so in the making.
You were here, you did a lot of recording at Electric Lady.
Kacey is one of the most critically acclaimed artists of her generation. She won multiple Grammy Awards and achieved global recognition, yet she has faced persistent resistance from mainstream country radio. Her career represents a classic example of how Nashville often struggles to embrace artists who challenge its cultural or musical norms. Kacey first gained attention with her 2013 debut album, Same Trailer, Different Park, which included hits like Merry-Go-Round and Follow Your Arrow. The latter, in particular, raised eyebrows in Nashville for its openly progressive lyrics, including support for same-sex relationships and living outside traditional norms. The song resonated with younger, more diverse audiences and won a CMA Award for Song of the Year, but country radio stations refused to play it. Her 2018 Golden Hour album won the Grammy for Album of the Year, a rare feat for a country artist, yet it still received minimal support from country radio. Despite the snubs, Kacey has remained commercially successful. Number 2, Steve Earle.
In the beginning, I don't know, I'm a songwriter, and that's what I did for a living for the last 15 years in Nashville.
Although he was one of country music's most respected songwriters, Earle has spent much of his career on the fringes of the Nashville establishment. Known for his storytelling lyrics, gritty voice, and defiant attitude, Earle came into the limelight in the mid-'80s with hits like Guitar Town and Copperhead Road. He found early success, but his outspoken political views and refusal to conform made him a controversial figure in traditional country circles. Earle has never shied away from tackling difficult subjects such as poverty, war, racism, capital punishment, and unhealthy habits. This attitude has often clashed with the sanitized narratives favored by mainstream country radio. His music was rarely embraced by country radio or major awards institutions, despite his immense songwriting talent and influence on Americana and outlaw country. Nonetheless, he's built a long-lasting career through integrity and raw honesty. Number 1. Hank Williams III.
7-inch for like $750, and I was like, what, really? I mean, I just didn't have no idea.
Hank III is the grandson of legendary country icon Hank Williams and has spent his entire career at odds with the Nashville music industry. He was known for his rebellious spirit, gritty sound, and refusal to conform. That was not all. He also criticized Nashville for turning its back on the very artists and values that built its legacy, especially those of his grandfather, Hank Williams Sr. One of his biggest points of contention was the Grand Ole Opry's expulsion of his grandfather in 1952. He launched a campaign to have his grandfather reinstated in 2003, arguing that the Opry owed its success in large part to Hank Sr.'s legacy. However, despite public support, the institution remained silent, making him unapologetically rebellious. Nonetheless, he built his fan base through underground shows, independent releases, and fiercely authentic music. His 2006 albums, like Straight to Hell, were often too wild for country traditionalists and too twangy for rock radio. He was ignored and quietly began to fade from the country music scene. Despite the marginalization, banning, rejection, and rebellion of these music legends, country music continues to grow in leaps and bounds. Which of these country music legends' band touched you the most, and how can you connect to their story? Share with us in the comments. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, like, share, and subscribe to this channel. Before you go, watch the other videos on your screen.